Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we're going to talk about this chart that the crash bros say is going to cause the housing market to crash. We're going to go over this in detail in a minute. But first of all, we want to thank everybody that watched yesterday's video. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
Juana, what is our new deal with all of the viewers who watch our videos?
Okay, so the new deal is if you watch the video within 48 hours of Todd posting the video, there should not be any commercials. After that, you're on your own and you can watch whatever wonderful videos YouTube serves you up. But for the first 48 hours, it's just you and us and the video. So hope you enjoy it and have a good time. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us comments. We appreciate it.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into this. We have actual data from FHA. We have a bunch of data because this stuff has been sort of blowing up X. Very recently, all the crash bros are cashing in on it, but it's all fake. It's literally all misrepresented data. Okay, so I'm going to put up the thing so you can look at it. Now, it says, first of all, 6.1 million Americans are in default on their mortgages. That's in all capitals. And it says the delinquency rate for FHA insured loans has reached 11.3%, the highest in years. Okay, let's talk about the...
Okay, so first of all, how many Americans do we have? We have about 350 million Americans.
Yes.
So how many of them are homeowners?
There's 140 million homes.
Right, about 140 million homes. So 6.1 million out of 140 million, considering that 40% are free and clear.
Okay.
You know,
the numbers don't make sense.
Can you see how the math just isn't working out?
But the problem is people are looking at this chart. Now, there's a chart over there. We're going to talk about the chart. They see the chart, they see the headline, they go, oh my God, I'm just finding this out. And then they don't do any research. One, let's talk about the three types of loans: conventional, FHA, VA. Right.
So those are the three big ones. There are other loan products out there. We acknowledge, there are jumbos, there are owner carry, there are all kinds of other, there's USDA, there's all kinds
but
they're
stuff. Minuscule. We're talking about the most common loan products.
Right.
Which of those is the highest level of risk?
Highest level of risk is FHA.
Okay.
The reason for that.
Okay.
The reason for the FHA being the highest level of risk is threefold. First of all, it's the least amount of down payment, so they have the least skin in the game. That makes sense. Second of all, they're generally the people with the lowest credit score.
Okay.
So that's kind of, telling of something right there. And then third, these are the people that generally have the lowest incomes, right? So they're the most likely to be influenced by any sort of economic hiccups.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this chart. This is the percentage of loan, a dollar amount, that is backed by FHA. Okay, now this chart is 2007 to 2020. As you can see, that back in 2010, about 30% of all home originations were FHA. You can see that in 2020, it was less than 15. Refis were even less, but that yellow line is the key. That's all loans of refi or purchase and all loan types. It's less than 10%. So you have the smallest, basically VA too. VA is a really small loan product because it's just veterans, but FHA is the smallest, riskiest loan product there are. Okay. It's also less than 15% of all outstanding loans.
Right.
Outstanding loans. Okay. Now, the next chart, so let's go back to this thing here. It says the delinquency rate for FHA insured loans reached 11.03%, the highest in years. Well, that's not really true. This chart came from HUD.
Right.
HUD runs the FHA. This is the serious delinquency rate among single-family loans, and it says have recently increased. And because when they talk about recently, they're talking about the last year. So as you can see, there's 2024, there's 2025. FHA, 4.41%, not 11%. It's not 11%, it's 4.41%. VA is 2.58%. Freddie and Fannie are point or lower. So you can see here, FHA loans have almost 10 times, probably 8 times more chance of being in default. So that was the first thing that we wanted to point out. You can also see that the current rate of foreclosures is not at all-time highs like they claim. As a matter of fact, if you look back in 2020, 2021, they were over 11%. Historically, they're probably 6 or 7%. Right now, they're at 4%. They're actually closer to all-time lows than highs. And you can see all the other mortgages sort of have fallen in line. That was the first thing with that. Why are FHA, like, why is this? Why do you think, first of all, because I got more charts, why do you think they're just hammering on this one number that they've made up, the chart they've made up? We're going to show you the chart again in a second. What is the whole purpose behind this?
If it bleeds, it leads.
Okay.
Okay, look, it's clickbait, and they didn't have to do that much work. They just had to make up one chart. They didn't have to make up many charts.
Okay. Here's the actual Federal Reserve delinquency rate on single-family residential mortgages, and it's all mortgages, okay? As you can see here, we're literally at the lowest we probably have ever been. Now, they started measuring this back in the early 90s. And you can see it peaked during the 2008, 9, 10 area. That's when a lot of people were in default. And that's when a lot of the foreclosures happened. We were doing foreclosures all the way to probably 2013, 14, pretty large number. But Wanda, you can see here it's a very low number, lower than the 90s, certainly lower than the last decade. I don't remember all the foreclosures from 2016, 17, 18, 19.
They weren't there.
And we actually have less than we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the next thing. This is the really funny one. So first of all, they've made up this number. 6.1 million Americans are in default on their mortgage. So let's go through the numbers here, Juana. 140 million homes in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how many of those percentage-wise are free and clear?
40.
About 40. It's actually 42%. So 40%. So quick math tells me it's like 60% have loans.
Right.
Or just under 60%, which is about 84 million, I think, right?
Okay.
84 million. So we'll call it 80 to 84 million. We already know that less than 15%, it's actually less than 10%, have an FHA loan of the 80 million. So let's say it's 15. So that would be about 12%.
About 12 million.
12 million, right?
Yes.
12 million. They're saying 6 million. They're saying half of all FHA loans. But we know it's not half, it's 4%. So they're literally off by 10. The actual number is less than a million. And it's a historic lows. That's the first thing. Okay. Now, Wanda, the second thing on this is this chart that you see that just shows some lines and it spikes up, and that's like housing crash, right? That was...
Okay, so here's the thing. Whenever I see these charts, the first thing I look at is the source of the chart. I think that's an important thing. We look at the Fred charts. We look at HUD charts. So we're looking at the actual government numbers that track all this. Whenever somebody else puts up a chart, I always have to wonder, how did you get your data? How did you make that up?
Okay.
Because if you have to make it up, that's a little troubling.
This is a Fred chart.
This is a Fred chart, okay.
However, this chart has nothing to do with residential anything. It's not single-family homes.
Okay.
You just saw the default. I just showed you guys the default percentage is very low. Serious delinquencies, okay? This chart is apartment buildings.
Okay,
It literally says multifamily. Juana, what does define multifamily?
So multifamilies are apartments, and as far as the default rate on apartments, that's a whole different ballgame, because remember, apartments are not, individuals, right? Those are multifamily. So you might have a complex that has 100, 200, 300 units. So if you're calculating doors, maybe they've got something as far as the number that might be in default. But even that I question. And the thing to remember is that apartments have different mortgage product. Apartments can, by definition, not have an FHA loan because FHA is for owner occupants. Right. So apartments are basically, apartment buildings are basically commercial loans, right? They're not single-family residential loans. So that's a whole different product. So to mix the two, that's like mixing oil and water. They just don't go together.
They took the chart for multifamily, which are apartment buildings, and it even says, if you look up there in the upper right, upper left corner, it says 0.42. That was the most recent reading, 0.42. That means 0.42%. That means 1 in every 250 apartment buildings is behind on whatever commercial loan they're paying. That means if you live in a city with 250 apartment complexes, one of them is just behind on payments. Now that has nothing to do with residential. This chart has zero to do. I showed you the Fred chart. I'll put it up again. This is the actual single-family residential mortgage default rate. What they did is they're lying to you. They took a multifamily chart and they posted it. They made up 6.1 million Americans are in default on their mortgages, because it's not. They just applied whatever number they made, 11%, which is not a true number. You saw the chart. It was actually 4% serious delinquent. And then they tried to apply that to like the whole market of houses, and they basically blew the number of defaults but by 10, intentionally lying.
Right. It's disingenuous, it's misleading, and it's just designed to get people to click and to engage, and that makes people money.
They've been doing this now since 2019. That's when the crash bro movement really started. We've been within 6 months of a massive wave of foreclosures and home prices dropping 50%. For 6 years now, we've been making videos the whole time. You can go back, watch all our videos. And you can even go back and look at the comments, all the crash bros from like 2021. Oh, Todd, by this time next year, home prices will be half what they are. They're like way higher than they were in 2021.
Right. So look, what's the old adage? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, the crash bros are not right twice a decade.
What's weird is that this tweet or X post had 260,000 views. 260,000 people went, oh, wow, 6 million Americans are defaulting mortgages. That looks like the housing thing is going to crash again. So I'll just wait 3 more years, and when home prices crash 50%, I won't go buy a house today. What if somebody had in 2021 or 2 had said, I'm going to wait 3 more years when home prices crash? What would they be faced with today versus 3 years ago?
Well, 3 years ago, they would have gotten much better interest rate.
Okay, and what else would they gotten a much better deal on?
They would have probably paid less money for the house.
Probably. In most markets, they would have.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, any final thoughts about this whole ridiculous thing where they took one number and then they took one number from I don't know where, and then all the rest of this is manufactured? It literally isn't real.
Well, I think the thought is understand what you're consuming. Right? Understand whether it's junk food or whether it's actually something that is going to inform you and help you make choices, right? Just because somebody posts something, it doesn't make it true. I think a lot of us have maybe elderly parents that believe everything that's in the media, that if it's on television, it must be true. X and other social media are the new forms of media, and if it's out there, it must be true. And that's not necessarily so. It is still incumbent on all of us to verify the information, to educate ourselves before we make choices. And that's the responsibility of each and every one of us.
I'm going to point out this other thing. As you can see over here on the side, there's this Nick Gurley guy who posts in his little rant too, because he's got more crash bro stuff. Mortgage default rates are increasing quickly for low-income FHA homeowners. Juana, you did some research on this. Mm-hmm. From last quarter to this quarter, what has happened to the mortgage default rate for FHA homeowners?
It's gone down.
It went down. You can Google it. You don't have to take our word.
No.
Go Google it. It declined over the last quarter. It's not increasing quickly. Mm-hmm. Made up numbers, guys. They're making this stuff up.
Right. And like I said, it's incumbent on all of us to do a little bit of research before we make decisions. So I hope this was informative. It was interesting. Please remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, love the video, share the video, leave us your real estate related comments, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.